Giggles podcast.
Okay. What's up?
We're back.
Yeah.
Another episode.
And another recording of the same episode.
Take number 34.
But we are
The
making
tales
this
of the
work.
technical difficulties return.
You know what, though? It's probably going to be a plus for everyone listening because this means it's going to be shorter because we're going to try and knock everything out.
We're going to speak really fast, so that way we beat the internet connection.
We're going to talk really, really fast. Just like this. Actually, I don't know if I can keep it.
You don't even need to listen to it on 2-speed. It's just us talking.
You tell that you listen to books instead of read them. Mr. Audible.
And I listen to them at 2-speed. So I get through twice as many books.
Twice as many books with half the amount of understanding.
No, I find that I actually retain way more info listening to them at 2-speed because you have to pay attention. Like, if you aren't paying attention, a book on 2-speed, you miss 10 seconds, and you're like, hang on, where the fuck did he, how did he get there? So you got to rewind it, and you've got to pay attention if you listen to it that fast.
So it's like literally listening to our podcast then.
Yeah, pretty much. Got to pay attention.
What do you, get distracted for 30 seconds? You're like, how are they on this subject? Why are we on Audibles right now?
That's just because we ramble so much.
Right now?
Tangent after tangent, yeah.
Right now.
Case and point.
Alright, so we have a listener question today. We're super excited. We respect this man immensely. Mr. Johnny Champion.
He's got a man crush.
Yeah, I just respect people, especially when they can squat heavier than me, lift heavier than me in pretty much in all aspects. So,
the man.
It's jealousy too. All right, so his question is, what's your take on overtraining and how do you approach your adjustments to training, whether that be personally or for your clients? I am just going to start by saying that KPow and I pretty much have the same views. However, the way that we structure these views could be vastly different.
The approach is a little bit different.
Just a little bit. He's a bit more aggressive. Mine's a little bit more understanding, which is basically our lives.
So I'll just disclaimer, I'm aggressive in my approach for myself. And then if I'm working with someone, I'll apply the aggressive approach because it's going to get the best results. But then we'll bring it back into some form of reality if we need to. But the aggressive approach is what we start with. And my aggressive approach on overtraining is that it doesn't exist. It's not even a thing. And the reason that I say that is because if you take away overtraining as an option, that's something that's not an excuse, that's not something that you can put any energy or focus on, it forces you to focus on something else. So if you say, well, overtraining isn't the issue, then what else is? And typically speaking, it would be an under recovery that is actually the problem. And that's the way that because then if you have overtraining in the back of your mind, then you're like, well, maybe if I dial back the squats, or if I don't do the run session, or if I don't do this, and then you start taking training away. And then my argument is that you're going to end up further behind the 8 ball than if you just kept with the training and improved your recovery instead. So I believe that it's under recovery, not overtraining. This
is phenomenal because the first time we recorded this episode, he was adamant. There's no such thing as overtraining. So everyone, KPow can change his mind. Well, not really. He can learn and adjust.
Just get me to repeat it 5 times. But my approach for it is that, there's no such thing as overtraining, so you've got to look at something else. So it has to be, well, what other aspects of the whole picture are making me feel like I'm overtrained? So for me, personally, if I get to a state where I'm overtraining, I've got a few signals or signs that kind of pop up that make me realize that that's the issue. And that for me is I'm just tired constantly. So I'll go day on day where it just takes me 4 hours to wake up, and it's just coffees aren't doing anything, and I get home and I'm exhausted, and it's just a fatigue thing for me. And typically that would come back to either I didn't sleep enough or I didn't sleep well enough, or I haven't eaten enough or eaten well enough. It's typically those two things. And then if it's not, then we can dive deeper into other recovery mechanisms. But
I like
most
that.
of the time, yeah.
That's really cool. And I think that's actually a very important thing. So my thing is as well is that, yes, you can be overtraining, but it's probably not the training issue. It's it's the recovery issue, or what you're doing outside the gym, which can be a huge thing. Now, there's obviously ways of training that can overtrain it. So, like, if you're just maxing out every single day a deadlift, well, you're probably going to overtrain your glutes, hammies, spinal erectors, and your central nervous system. And that's just dumb programming. And so if you're doing that, I think they call that the Brendo method. Just stop it. Get a real coach. Or just a friend. But let's just say everything is okay. You're following a program that you trust. Plug, such as Baseline, then you've got to look at what you're doing outside of those training sessions. And so the biggest things that we will talk about mostly is going to be sleep and nutrition. There's other things you can do with whether you're like lessening your stress levels in work and everything, but the biggest things that are in your control is your nutrition and sleep. Because a lot of people can't control what happens with work and what happens with family and what friends and all that stuff. But sleep and nutrition, you can.
Yes. So the first thing would be just the awareness of like what's the signals it's before you get to a point where you're completely screwed, like figuring out what those things are so you can address the problem before it like gets out of hand, and then making those changes. So like we said, typically it'll be nutrition and sleep. Firstly, you're looking at the quantity. So am I eating enough calories? Am I getting enough protein in to let my muscles recover? Am I having enough carbs throughout the day to give me enough energy for the sessions? You would look, if you're checking off the quantities, then you would start looking at the quality of the food. So eating 150 grams worth of rice is going to be a hell of a lot different to just eating Starburst and like biscuits. So yes, it might be the same calorie content, but they're going to have different mechanisms within the body. You're going to have like different inflammatory markers, and your overall recovery isn't going to be the same just going off the macro count. You need to have good quality food, make sure that you're getting the nutrients in there. We're not really qualified to comment much on the specifics there, but we can tell you that eating fruits and veggies and whole foods is going to give you a way better result than eating processed bullshit with a bunch of God knows what in it. If there's an ingredient list that has more than 20 items in it, you probably shouldn't be eating it.
Yeah, so there's two things I want to like comment on that without obviously being dietitian, nutritionist, or anything like that. Is that my theory is that if it's grown by the sun, if it's had to have the sun help it to grow, the sun helps everything else grow as well, and water, oxygen, whatever you want to call it, by nature, then it's probably going to be better for you than some dude with glasses and a lab coat. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to put it out there. However, we should talk about performance nutrition, like game day nutrition one day. Anyways, and just to put this in comparison, James Smith has a great analogy, but I'm just going to dull it down a bit.
Are we going to butcher it?
No. Well, no, I don't think I've shared this way too many times to butcher it. I know it almost off by heart, but because I don't know exactly who's listening.
Keep it PG.
Yep, it's having like Starbursts and then having rice or potatoes. So the Starburst and the rice will get you the carbs, but the potatoes will get you the quality of food within the micronutrients, like the minerals and all that kind of stuff. Now, having a girlfriend or having a one-night stand will get you the same good times. However, you can't cuddle the girlfriend afterwards. You can't go on dates. You can't do the one night stand. Sorry, Han. Yeah. I butchered it.
You did,
yes. You don't get all those like the micro things within it. So it's always better to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a thing. You know.
No, we'll stick to boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yep.
We'll keep it real here.
And that's a huge part though, because if you're giving your body something that is going to increase its inflammatory markers, like a lot of processed foods will, or they just won't help the processed foods go down, it's not going to help you recover from training. And that overtraining, it's just that stimulus of overtraining is going to stay there.
Yeah.
Whereas better foods is going to help your body recover better and not have to stress it out about dealing with the crap that you're putting inside of it.
Yeah. And then the same 2 questions you would ask yourself for sleep as well. So for a lot of people, they go, oh, but I had 8 hours sleep last night. It's like, well, did you have 8 hours sleep or were you in bed for 8 hours? Because going to bed at 10 o'clock and getting up at 6 o'clock is different from being asleep at 10 o'clock and being asleep still at 6 o'clock. There's 2 different, it's very different being in bed for and having the same amount of sleep. So the quantity first and foremost, and then the quality of your sleep as well. So you can get right into it. I don't think we're going to dive too deep into it, but you can look into having the right temperatures of your room and making sure that you've got the airflows and your nighttime routines. If you have a consistent nighttime routine and a consistent night time, like going to bed at the same time, that improves your quality of sleep because your body gets used to that. And so it knows, oh, it's 9 o'clock, it's time to shut down. And then you get into following your circadian rhythm, then you get a better quality of sleep as well. So quantity first, and then check off the quality of it as well. So they're going to be your main 2 questions that you should ask yourself. And they're the easiest things to do.
Yeah, and I would say that's the order as well. Like people might be like, why wouldn't you just focus on the quality of your sleep before your quantity? Well, because it's easy just to set a bedtime, and it's easy to set an alarm. That's it. You just go to bed at this time, and you get up at this time. And usually getting up is dictated by whether you have kids that you got to do school drop-off or you've got work to do or go to.
Did you know, you probably know, but if you have a consistent wake-up time, that will get you better sleep quality than going to bed at the same time. So if you have a sporadic, if you have a sporadic, so if you go to bed at 8 o'clock one night and then you go to bed at 11 o'clock the next night and go to bed at 9 o'clock and then 7 o'clock and the going to bed is sporadic, but you have a consistent 6 a.m. wake up, like rain, hail or shine, you're up at 6 o'clock every day because of work or whatever, you're going to get a better sleep quality than if it was the other way around, of you going to bed at 8 o'clock every day and then waking up at 9 o'clock, and then because you don't have an alarm set, you wake up at 7 o'clock the next day, and then whatever. Yeah. So if you can set a consistent wake up time, the hardest thing to do is be consistent on the weekend. But if you can do that, that will increase your sleep quality. I think it was Andrew Huberman mentioned that in one of his podcasts.
Very cool. Oh, I didn't know that. No. Yeah. Can you imagine though? Let's just say there's these. Have you seen Futurama where Fry eats the worms and then the worms keep saving him and rebuilding his body and everything? Can you imagine there's little worms or people in your body and they're like, man, he's only given us 4 hours of sleep. Let's go.
They're just sitting at the door waiting. He's not going to sleep yet. We can't do anything.
Turn Game of Thrones off.
Yeah.
No more Call of Duty, KPow. Sick of it. All right. But yeah, so we have digressed.
Yet again.
They would be the biggest things. Now, I do like KPow's view on that there's no such thing as overtraining, because I don't like the bluntness of it, but I do like his thoughts around it, because if you start thinking, oh, I'm not training, I'm overtraining, I'm just going to have an extra deload week or a half deload week or have this day off, you are falling behind.
Yeah.
And it might not be you do it once, but if you get in the habit of it, it'll happen over time, and that will add up, because the people that are the best are doing everything, and those 1%ers count at the very end, especially in CrossFit, because there's a whole year between the big games, right? The big events. So the 1%ers add up. It's not like you're competing week to week, like some AFL and footy and all that stuff.
It also builds that level of discipline as well. If you can stick with it, I don't really feel like going to the gym today, I'm just going to go. I'm going to go and I'm going to train. It might not be to the intensity that I should be or that I want to be, but I'm still going to go and train and maintain my discipline and, tick the box, and then address the recovery side of things as well, instead of just stopping the training because, for the majority of people, you're not training any more than 1 to 2 hours for the majority of people. The majority of people, Mr. Popular in the background.
Hey, I've turned everything on silent, and I'm going to blame Hannah on this one. It's Hannah.
If, like I said, most people, they're going to go do the CrossFit class, and then a couple of days a week you might add in, so I want to do some handstand push-up extras, or like do some running extras, or whatever it might be. You accumulate 1 to 2 hours worth of training each day. So I would argue that nobody in that scenario is in any sort of risk of overtraining, because you're not putting enough into your training to warrant overtraining. You're just not doing enough recovery. So that 2 hours of training, let's just say 2 hours, you've got 22 hours remaining in your day that you can actively work towards recovering.
And even one thing will make a difference.
It doesn't even, like,
it will.
For a lot of people, spending 10 minutes at the end of your session stretching. So I just did a really heavy squat session. I didn't today because
You did single leg squats.
For example, if I just did like a really heavy leg squat session and my hips are really tight, and I spend 10 minutes stretching out my hip flexors, stretching out my glutes, stretching out my hamstrings and all the accompanying muscles, you're going to feel way better, and I can guarantee that that's going to help with your recovery and help with your overtraining, as opposed to reducing your training.
Yep. As coaches, as I can speak on my behalf with my clients, whether they're PT or group clients as well, helping them recognize two things. One, the signs of overtraining. So for KPow, it's sleep. It's just super tired. For me, I actually just get super erratic with my emotions, and so I'm super angry, then super happy, then super calm. And I'm you're
just on your period.
Super well, you know.
I mean, you can't, but for argument's sake.
Don't tell me what I can't. No.
I mean, these days you can.
Yeah. So, mate, we're not getting cancelled on like our 9th or 10th episode, right? Stop it. So, I'm distracted.
Sorry.
No, so helping them recognise the telltale signs for them. And it's going to be individual for everyone, especially with people that have more desk jobs compared to laboured jobs. And then helping them figure out what they can do outside the gym to help them in the gym. Because as a coach, and I hope all coaches know this, that time in the gym is super important, not just for physical achievements, but for mental achievements. So if you take that away from them, they're going to feel like they're missing out on something. Yeah. Whereas if they have the time and they can have like this opportunity to learn, you're giving them something else that they can improve on in life, which recovery, like I know it's simple. Some people are for and against ice baths. I think they're amazing. Imagine getting them feeling like they're tough enough to handle an ice bath. Like that's cool. Imagine getting them to overcome the relationship they have with food.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
More little wins.
Yep.
Because like you touched on before, for people that have got desk jobs, so if you're sitting for a long time and you're just getting tight through your hips, which is a really, really common issue. Hip flexor, tightness in your hip flexors and immobility issues from the hips is one of the most common things, that and then the shoulder mobility as well from a desk job. If you have movement inefficiencies, that's going to make your training harder. So if you can improve on the movement inefficiencies, then your training becomes a little bit easier. So then the stimulus changes, so you can then fit more training in before you start over training. Mm-hmm. So fixing that movement inefficiency with recovery via stretching and mobility kind of work, you're going to it's not even two birds with one stone. You're going to synergistically fix so many different things. And then, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to increase our work capacity. So I'll simplify it. If you can go into the gym and you can do one strength piece and one metcon, let's just say it's a 20-minute strength piece and a 40-minute metcon. If you can do that, and then, that's a bad example because they're time domains. Let's say there's like X amount of squats. There's 10, you're going to do 20 active sets, 20 squats, and then you're going to do like a run distance. Let's just say
Let's say it's 5Ks at the CrossFit Games, so it's 4.5.
It's 35 minutes worth of volume. Let's just say that. It takes you 35 minutes to get through this amount of volume. If you improve on your efficiencies and if you improve on all these other mechanisms and whatnot, and then you can fit that 35 minutes worth of volume into 20 minutes, so then you can tack on another 15 minutes worth of volume, and now you've got more work capacity in that same time frame. That's what we're aiming for. So we're always going to be pushing to squeeze a little bit more in and push a little bit harder and get a little bit more work done, because that's the aim of the game. We're trying to increase your total work capacity across broad time and modal domains, because that's what CrossFit is. But that's what essentially we're all trying to achieve. So if you can do that by stretching, eating a little bit better, sleeping a little bit better, then that's the goal essentially, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's huge. And on that, you'll also find out that some people respond differently. So you will get some people that their quality of sleep is just very good.
Yeah.
It just happens to be very good. So increasing their ability to eat better or increasing their time spent warming up, cooling down, and mobility, that might be the game changer for them. There could be something else. It could be then that they're not taking creatine. It could be that they're...
Could be a really easy fix. Have a protein shake. You're not getting quite enough protein for your muscles to recover. But that's like what I was kind of elaborating on was the fact that we're kind of always going to be pushing that boundary of overtraining. But it's not really overtraining. It's we haven't adapted to the amount of volume yet, or the stimulus that we're pushing, and then you haven't done enough of X, Y, and Z to recover from that. So if you've adapted to the stimulus and now the volume's increasing, you just need to improve on your recovery so you can then add a little bit more volume in. Because that's essentially what we're doing by trying to increase our work capacity. We are essentially trying to get as close to that line of overtraining as possible, so that way we can improve it and increase it. So if you're not hitting those points where you feel like you're overtraining, either you're recovering like a champ and good on ya, or you need to be pushing a little bit harder as well.
Probably the pushing.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's good.
One more thing.
No, that's not good.
We talked about this in the first one, and I really liked that we went there, was the concept of having some form of off switch. So a lot of people kind of turn this into like burnout. So if you're getting up and you're training at 6 o'clock in the morning and then you go into your job and it's a physical job, or even if it's like really mentally draining job, you're on all day. A lot of the time it just you need some sort of mental off switch. So driving to the gym, you got the radio playing and you're on because you're listening to the music, you're driving, you're paying attention to the cars on the road, so you're on there. You get to the gym and then you're on in the class, and then you're driving to work and then you're on, and then you're at work, so you're talking to your boss and you're talking to your clients and you've got to get this project on, and you're on the whole day. And then when you get home, the kids haven't been fed or like dinner's halfway through, so you're on. And then the only off switch is when you're trying to get to sleep, so then your sleep quality's out. So if you can try and actively or like really push for and try and get 10 minutes a day or 5 minutes a day of just a complete off switch where there's no music, you're just chilling out by yourself, and just let everything kind of relax and switch off. Let that body go from your fight mode into flight versus fight. Yeah, no, that's a bad. I'm blanking now.
Oh no, you want to go, pretty sure you want to go into the sympathetic.
That's the one, sympathetic nervous system. So let that take over, your rest and digest. You would just want to, you kind of have to give yourself that time to just have an off switch. Just chill, just relax. Because I think that, in my perception, would be so much more valuable. Or not more valuable, but that would be a very, very valuable piece into overtraining or burnout or whatever you'd want to call it.
I'm actually glad you went here. Firstly, it's parasympathetic. I just went and made sure.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I apologise. Parasympathetic helps your body to relax, turn those like alert signals off. And this is actually something I feel. I can't believe I forgot about it. I'm sorry. I feel so strongly about this. More than probably ice baths, more than sleeping, more than eating, more than anything is, and it's kind of like my most valued thing is time. And so it annoys a lot of people, particularly my family, like outside of Hannah and the boys, because sometimes they're like, hey, I mean, not as much anymore, we're in Brisbane, but they'll be like, hey, let's catch up. And I'm like, no, sorry, I need my downtime. And some people don't get it. And I understand that, but I was also very protective. And I was like, no, like the weekend or at least one night on the weekend, I don't do like nothing. Yeah. Like I don't even watch TV. I just sit there and I'm just like a zombie, but I just need that to switch off. And that's it. And then sometimes if I'm before training and I'm like that, I'll do some breathing techniques just to kind of like, switch off, zone out, whatever.
I think a lot of people are missing, and it can be such a valuable addition to your day. And it doesn't have to be much. Like what I do is if I'm driving home, because it's about a 25, 35-minute drive from the gym home.
That is so far.
I know, but it's worth it. Cheeky plug. But I just won't turn the radio on. So windows down, and I know you're paying attention. It's quite highway. It's majority highway for the drive home. So there's bits where you can kind of switch off. But for the 25 minutes or half an hour that it takes me to get home, I get home and I'm so zen. I'm just chilled out. I'm like, man, that was amazing. Or I didn't do anything. I was just chilled out. And it just kind of like, it's a bit of a reset. And then the next day when it's like time to go, like switch on, you're like, yep, I'm prepared. I'm ready to switch on because like I was so zen yesterday, chilled out. It's just that kind of balance, that yin and yang. So
you need that.
100%.
Actually, I was talking to one of the coaches at the gym I coach at, and she was talking about, because I was talking to her about meditating. She's a genius when it comes to all this stuff. And she was telling me how even when you meditate, it's not always about controlling where your thoughts are, but just letting your thoughts flow.
Yeah.
And she's like, sometimes we try and control our thoughts so much, whether it's because we're scared to face or whether we're scared of what others might think, even though they don't know our thoughts. And so she's like, if you just let your thoughts flow, and it's quite easy to do that when you're driving with nothing else on, because you are focused on being safe.
Yeah.
So that's where your consciousness is going to go. And if it's a highway drive, there's not a lot of things to think about in comparison to city driving, and so you can subconsciously let those thoughts flow.
Yeah. It's a good little hack that I've come across. I enjoy it.
Very nice. Yeah, I just sit there on the couch and just not talk to anyone.
Yeah.
And then Hannah sits there trying to show me reels and memes, and I'm like, yep, nice, cool. Yeah. And she gets frustrated and I feel bad.
Well, I think that a lot of people will go, yeah, I'll watch like half an hour of TV before I go to bed, or like, I don't count that as an off switch, personally. Some people might. For some people that might be all they need. But I don't see that as an off switch. I see that as an interruption to my bed night routine. my night. This
is your new thing. I'm going to bed night. I also think it's because you're a Labrador and you get distracted and stimulated by the slightest of things.
If the TV's on, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah. If the TV's on, I'm just like watching TV. You could be talking to me and I'm just, sorry mate, the TV's on. I'm fine. I'm out.
It's literally Peppa Pig on the TV. I don't care. I'm invested.
Yeah. I want to know what she says.
Yeah. It's a different accent.
But yeah.
All right.
On that note, I reckon we'll leave it there. That was good.
Cool. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, hopefully. If you've got any more questions, do as Johnny did and leave them in the questions. Leave them in the comments below. I'm all over the show tonight. Leave them in the comments below on Spotify. If you haven't already, go over to YouTube, give us a subscribe, like the video for us, and find us on Instagram as well, gains.and.giggles, and hit us up with a DM or any questions.
Please, we appreciate you guys listening, especially this far.
With your friends. Yeah, share us with your friends. Let them all know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Let them know.
See you next week.
See you guys.